And starting today, electricity tariffs will go up by 5.94% and water by 2.22%. The new increases were announced by the Public Utility Regulatory Commission yesterday. Exactly 3 months ago in July this year, the PURC in its major tariff review increased electricity by 11.17%. For some customers, shouldering an additional 5.94% increment is premature and shocking. The critical question is what has really changed within this short period to warrant such a steep increment. A little later on, we'll be speaking to the former Deputy Minister of Energy and Petroleum, John Abdullahi Jinapor. And according to him, the new increment comes on the heels of recent upward adjustments of the energy sector levies, transport fares, petroleum prices, communication service tax, as well as electricity tariffs, is unjustified and must be condemned in the strongest terms possible, as this will only aggravate the worsening conditions of Ghanaians. But first of all, we will be speaking to Mr. Stanley Mate. He is the Public Relations Officer for the Ghana Water Company Limited. Good morning, Mr. Mate, and thank you for your time.
Yes, good morning.
So the big question really is what has changed within this really short period to warrant such a steep increment?
Okay, I think we all appreciate the fact that we are now working with the automatic adjustment formula. And this began or took effect about some 10 years ago. Okay, so if we all have accepted the use of the formula, I think it's only appropriate that it's followed or it has heard in total. Now, there's been times when the time has gone down as a result of the various parameters or the formula going down. So if now the various parameters have said that it have to go up, I think we have to accept it. As an utility, we even expect higher because at the last major tariff adjustment, we expected more than we had. And we keep saying we do not have cost-reflective tariffs. And so if it has come at this time, first quarter after a major increase, there has to be a 2% increase. I think we have to appreciate it. For us as a utility, it's almost insignificant, and especially to the customer, it's almost insignificant. But then the utilities will have to work. And like I keep saying, energy tariffs, the energy component of our expenditure alone is about 50%. We haven't talked about chemicals. We haven't talked about overheads. We haven't talked about operational expenditure and all that. So the utility, the Ghana Water Company Limited itself, is always operating at a loss. It's just because we do not have a cost-reflective tariff. So we have accepted it because the entire nation accepted automatic adjustment formula, and we'll have to work with it. Other than that, we would expect that the tariff would have been higher than it is now.
If you're saying that you're operating at a loss as the Ghana Water Company Limited, are you suggesting that perhaps the tariffs will go up soon?
The tariff cannot go up because you have accepted automatic adjustment formula. So it can't go up any soon, but every quarter it will be reviewed. And that is the dedication that the PLC has given all of us. Every quarter it will be reviewed. If it has to be reviewed downward, we all have to accept it. If you have to be reviewed upwards, we also all have to accept it because we do not have control over the parameters that we're talking about. For instance, we use foreign exchange in the procurement of our chemicals. Now, if the CD is depreciated against the dollar or against foreign currency, what else can we do? You understand what I mean? Now, if energy cost is going high, close to 50% of our expenditure goes into energy. What can we do? As I speak, the GWCL is indebted to PDS. We have to pay. We are unable to pay because of lack of funds. Okay? Assuming PDS decides that they are going to disconnect GWCL now, how are we going to pay? How are we going to supply water to our consumers? So we have to take all these things into consideration and help or support the utilities to function and give us very good services.
Are you able to tell us exactly how much you owe PDS?
For now, I think it's between the two of us, and we'll hold it on for now. Two parties are really talking
ask because if you're operating at a loss and you're not making enough money to pay the debt, then we, the consumers who are on the other side, we stand a chance of running into some sorts of problems with our water supply if this is not resolved.
Hello,
Mr. Mate.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
It's okay.
Okay, I was asking, and I was saying that because we, the consumers, are the ones who are going to face challenges if this issue is not resolved. I'm talking about the fact that you owe PDS. What exactly is the plan if you're working at a loss at the moment? How are you going to make up for the gap that is needed so that you can finance your debt?
Yeah, the two parts are society. So we all appreciate each other's challenges. Okay, so we are still discussing as to how we can settle their bills so that they can function, and then we can also function and try to get upon the way we should. So we that it doesn't get to that point where we will discuss. But the situation as it is now is what I've said, that we are seriously challenged because we are unable to pay our bills.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Stanley Mate, the PRO for Ghana Water Company Limited. In relation to the increments, one such person who's spoken up about it is the former Deputy Minister of Energy and Petroleum, John Abdullahi Jinapor. Now, according to him, the new increments coming on the heels of recent upward adjustments of the energy sector levies, the transport fares, petroleum prices, communication service tax, as well as the electricity tariffs, is unjustified and must be condemned in the strongest terms possible, as this will only aggravate the worsening conditions of ordinary Ghanaians. We've been trying to get him on the phone lines. He did agree to speak with us, but I'll share with you some of the concerns which he has published. And now he says that the Akufo-Addo government, since assuming office, has completely lost focus and continues to adopt very poor policy decisions in the energy sector. A clear case is the populist but unwise decision to usurp the functions of the PURC by announcing a so-called reduction in tariffs in the early part of 2018, resulting in huge revenue shortfalls in the electricity value chain, culminating in mounting debts, which is threatening the energy sector SOEs and IPPs. He goes on to say that it is now abundantly clear that the so-called reduction was not only a populist political gimmick, but a complete charade compounded with the all-time scandalous PDS transaction, which has now become an albatross on the neck of the government. He says, and I quote, President Akufo-Addo and the NPP must, without further delay, apologize profusely to the good people of Ghana for deceiving them. And it's shocking to note that despite all the illegality and scandal surrounding the PDS deal, this government insists on keeping the PDS deal by going through a backdoor to restructure the shares of PDS. He goes on to say, finally, the opaque manner in which the energy sector is being managed, coupled with excessive political interference, is gradually eroding the little confidence consumers had in the PURC. Finally, Akufo-Addo and his government should also be reminded that no amount of cleanup on this mega PDS scandal will wash. We stand ready any day and any time, and will make sure Ghanaians are not shortchanged. That's according to John Abdullahi Chinapo. And joining us on the phone is a commissioner of the Public Utility Regulatory Commission for more. It's been 3 months and we're finding out why the new increases have come up. We have Mr. Ishmael Ejikumhene with us on the phone lines. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, sir, why have these increases now come up?
Okay, so the press release actually articulated clearly why the increase. And the truth of the matter is that the PURC has a mandate to always make sure that the utilities are efficiently managed and costs are adequately recovered as much as possible. If you look carefully at our announcement in late June, which took effect from July 1, it was clear that PURC mentioned that they will be making sure that the automatic adjustment formula is strictly adhered to. PURC does two main kinds of tariff reviews. The major one, which is done every 2 years, and the automatic adjustment formula, which is done on a quarterly basis. The reason being that there are a number of assumptions that go into the determination of tariffs. So once you have assumptions including currency, exchange rate, inflation, generation mix, and things like that, if you are not able to take stock and keep track, you end up having a situation where the utilities will be under recovering. Let me give you a typical example. In July, the assumption behind the exchange rate was 5.05. As you speak right now, the exchange rate is close to 5.4, in some cases 5.5. The revenue shortfall that the utilities have experienced over the quarter is close to about 80 million today. If we don't do anything about it, this is going to continue to pile up, and then you are not talking about marginal increases, but you'll be looking at major increases even before the end of the major review. So everything that PURC is doing is very transparent, and I am surprised that Honorable Jinapo is bringing PURC into his politics. I think he should leave PURC out of this. There's nothing opaque about what PURC is doing. For the first time in the history of PURC, the decisions of PURC are being published on PURC's website. As we speak with you right now, PURC is in Kofodia explaining to the stakeholders what goes into the determination of their tariff. So he should leave PURC out of his politics. And he, having been an energy minister before, should know that what we are doing has got nothing to do with politics. So he should leave the PURC out of this thing, and he shouldn't insult the intelligence of the people who are working at PURC. The PURC knows what they are doing, and he should leave them out of his politics.
Okay, sir, well, he raised 2 points, and I think that they're worth questioning. The first one is that he talked about the fact that last year there was a reduction in tariffs, and maybe that may have been for political reasoning. If only a year later we're raising these tariffs back up. He also talks about the PDS deal, and the fact that maybe we're also having to cushion that as well. I spoke to the Ghana Water Company Limited, and they're saying that even with the increment, it's not going to be enough to be able to pay PDS what is owed them. And so I think what we really want to do is understand exactly why the tariffs are going up, and more importantly, if it's enough and sustainable in the long term, so that we do not encounter any problems with the PDS or ECG or whoever is managing at that point.
So the PDS issue, I'm not the one to speak about PDS, but let me speak about why tariffs had to go down in 2018. You see, when I have members of parliament who, in fact, people who have sat in the energy ministry talking like this, I have a problem with that. PURC has met with parliament. The decision as to how tariff was reduced in 2018 is on PURC's website. Whatever went into that determination is there. PURC has met with the Parliamentary Select Committee, we've met with the Finance Committee. This has been presented. Why is he questioning what went into that, if not for political reason? Is it that he doesn't understand what PURC did? If you don't understand, let people explain to you. Don't say that it's for political reason. There was good basis. Look, the gas price, for example, government had renegotiated the gas price. It has dropped from 8.84 to as low as 7.29. That makes a lot of difference. The hydrothermal mix had also changed. Okay, beyond that, PURC had found some double counting in the tariffs. We took that out. That was the main reason why we were able to reduce tariffs. Okay, there was a situation where people, industries, were moving from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire because tariffs were too high. So that decision has been explained. It's not anything political. Political decisions, sometimes you can't explain. Go to PURC website right now. Go to that website and see whether the 2018 decision hasn't been explained, the detailed report on that. Why is he talking like that? Beyond that, 2018 then became the reference point. In 2018, anyway, the exchange rate we used was 4.43. The exchange rate today is 5.3 or something like that. How is he saying that tariffs should remain where they are? If you do what he's saying we should be doing, that's how come we were in doomsday for all those years. The energy sector has to recover. Unless somebody is bringing money to recover any shortfall, the sector will have to be able to pay for itself. Okay? We are saddled with debts in excess of, nobody even knows the exact amount, close to $3 billion. Do we want to be adding to that? At the end of it all, it's the same Ghanaians, the bonds that they are taking, you and I are going to pay for that. Why can't we delink politics from what is going on and speak the truth so that we don't create confusion for everybody to solve in the future? And he sits there and is complaining, talking as if he's been a minister before. Why is he bringing PURC in? He's consistently been trying to bring PURC into this whole political thing. PURC did its work. I'm a member of that commission, and we know what we did. We put out the report in 2019, the tariffs that we announced in 2019. That report is also on the website. If you are questioning the assumptions, don't come and say that it's for political reasons without substantiating it. That's the reason why he was a minister. He was a part of the doomsday that we all encountered in this country. So yes, if we're talking about the basis has been provided. It's not, we know what, I mean, as a member of the commission, I know that what we did was grounded on facts and figures. Talking about whether or not Ghana Water is saying the money is not sufficient, Ghana Water should come and tell us how much they deem to be sufficient. Okay, and then we will explain to them what led to this. We've published everything. They should come and tell us why they think that the money, the increment they are getting wouldn't be sufficient to pay for PDS. The reason why they are getting that 2% is that the energy component of their production has been adjusted. What is it that Ghana Water is talking about? What is it they are talking about?
Mr. Jekrumhene, okay, you've asked quite a lot of rhetorical questions, I would say, but it's good because Mr. John Jinapor is also on the line, and so perhaps he can make his point a little bit more clearer for us. Good morning, Mr. Jinapor.
I honestly don't want to engage in this kind of discussion because I told your people that I'm chairing a meeting right now. I've stepped out for the past 10-15 minutes.
Okay,
so let him say whether if he wants us to talk. When I come back to Accra, we'll talk about it.
Yes, all right, sir.
But
thank you very much.
But he should take PURC out of his politics.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time. I'm moving swiftly to speak to Mr. Jinapor. Good morning and welcome to News Desk.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So what do you think is the cause of this increment?
First of all, I think that the PURC is being extremely dishonest with the people of Ghana. The PURC should move away from the politics and concentrate on their core mandate. You would recall that in 2018, when they decided to reduce these tariffs by about 17%, we asked details and raised issues. And it's important that in this country, all of us begin to interrogate this matter. It's not the PURC that pays the electricity bill. It's not the PURC that pays the water bill. And so the people of Ghana, including your very good self, you deserve to know how these tariffs are arrived at. It ought to be transparent. At the time when they were reducing this tariff, the exchange rate was getting worse, crude oil prices were increasing, all the indicators were getting bad, and yet PURC insisted and reduced the tariffs. As a result of that, today we have a huge debt of more than $1 billion. Let the PURC come and deny that because of that tariff reduction, there is no huge debt outstanding. That is number one. Then in July, they came out with about a 12% increment in electricity tariffs. They claimed that that was to restore the sector and ensure that there is financial viability. So the critical question to ask today is that in less than 3 months, what has changed? I think the people of Ghana ought to know. Because if we take the exchange rate, go and read the Bank of Ghana Monetary Policy Committee report. The issue of exchange rate cannot, and it's not tenable, because the Monetary Policy Committee, which is the custodian, the official source when it comes to exchange rate determination, is the Bank of Ghana, indicates that the CD has been stable. Number two, in terms of our fuel consumption, we are moving more to gas. Indeed, we are moving away from light crude oil, and if he challenges me, I will bring the figures. But even more importantly, I have just opened the PURC website. What the PURC does is to announce tariffs through a gazette. That gazette is signed by the commissioner. In that gazette, they tell us the details of where those monies are going to. In terms of the weighted average, is it going to distributors? Is this going to the transmission sector? Or is going to the generation subsector? Then we can also do an analysis. But when you issue a political statement and just say that you've increased it by 5.94, and you expect that we should swallow that hook, line, and sinker, it begs the issue. This is the same PURC that is creating this mess for us. And so, look, I would plead with you, let us interrogate this matter. You, the people of Ghana, you determine where we move as a country. The PURC cannot be that opaque. They ought to be transparent. They ought to be accountable to the people of Ghana. And all of us ought to know where we are going to. In terms of the debt levels, how much the utilities are making and all that. Because recently, just recently, the Minister of Finance came to Parliament and adjusted the energy sector levy because there's supposed to be some debt outstanding. What is the PURC's role in that? Why must you, the ordinary Ghanaian, come and pay additional tariffs and additional taxes because of the PURC's incompetence? I think that we ought to be serious and we ought to tackle these issues head on and front up.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. John Jinapor.